Welcome, Thursday, live training. We are covering the very last chapter of our book today. Everyone communicates, few connect. I've gotten some amazing responses, certainly from my staff, about what a great book this was. I'm so happy, and I hope it was for you. I selected this book kind of on a whim. I mean, it was more gut, Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. But as I'm going through it, even this chapter, Leandro, there's a part in there with the guys with the automobile dealerships. Have you read this chapter? Oh, Leandro.
Chapter 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the family that has in Austin has those huge dealerships. And anyway, I'll get to it. But it was a moment where the guy did, or I did exactly what the guy did when we experienced some of our things here. And I wonder, as I'm reading this, I'm seeing experiences in my life where I really kind of replicated what I'm reading. And it's got to be the book, right? I mean, I've been reading for years. It's not just this book. And like I said, all books, you all, and when I look this way, I'm looking at you all, by the way, all two of you with your camera on, killing me. At this stage of the game, you'd think there'd be enough trust there to throw the camera on. That's what we'll be talking about today. I usually do a little bit of review, but I don't think that's necessary anymore. Certainly last week I touched on the fact that we're already just kind of rehashing things that we've already talked about. And certainly that is evident in this chapter here. And it's really about credibility, having integrity. I call it doing what you say, saying what you do. So the title of this one is Do What You Say. That's going to be that'll be your title. Do what you say. He talks about a honeymoon period. And I know I've mentioned before when I was younger, and this is true with my son, James, he's athletic. He's good looking. He's in my opinion, obviously I'm a little biased. He is an absolute stud. And the thing that I like is that he's worked on his craft at being a baseball player. That's his predominant sport. He also plays basketball, would love to play football, but mother is not letting that happen right now. And I can't say I disagree, although I stay away from it. Anyway, I really like that because when I was a kid, I experienced that when you go onto the playground and they're picking for kickball, they're picking for, baseball, football, whatever, and they're selecting teams. And if you can play and you can help your team and you can help them win and they have hope in you because you're good, man, there's already a connection. There's already an attraction factor. But what I told James is that novelty, that honeymoon period wears off. Sooner or later, no matter how good you are, if you don't have integrity, if you're not a person that people are attracted to, all that goes to waste. I've said it in another analogy is with all the people. Remember, I was in the restaurant business for about 15 years, and most of them really high volume. So we would have server staff of 50, 70 at one restaurant, carried 90 servers at a time. It was huge. And so you got to imagine all the interviewing and employees that I've seen over the years because it's multiplied so much. I mean, now I'm just talking about front of the house. I'm talking about the back of the house. And you start seeing real trends in resumes. And once you start really learning the human condition, you start understanding why those trends happen. And Leandro, we've talked about this. You look at a resume and it says 8 months, year, 8 months, 6 months, 12, 13 months. That's what's happening. There's an excitement, right? And remember, I told you my definition of discipline is continuing to engage in the activity long after the emotion under which you decided to engage in the activity wears off, because it's going to come. It's like New Year's resolution. Everybody's excited. They go. And then I heard, this is amazing, that by January 6th, like some of the apps where people log in and monitor their health, that's when the big drop-off starts happening. January 6th. I'm not even kidding. I think it was either MyZone or maybe it was Orange Theory that reported that it was the 6th. And then the next major one, I think, is the 12th or something, where it drops really again, where people stop logging in. The point is, the honeymoon wears off. I mean, we bought a beautiful house, and it wasn't until we were there for like 2 months. Like, how did I not see this? Like, this is messed up. Why did I not ask a question about it? Because it was just so beautiful. But over time, reality hits. And that's what this chapter is about it doesn't matter how articulate you are, how knowledgeable you are, how pretty you are, charismatic, charming. It really doesn't matter, because over time, the honeymoon period is going to end. And what's left is who we are. It's our credibility. We are who we are every day. I mean, if you want to learn a lot about a person, just watch what they do, right? I mean, it's like in church, they'd say, hey, if I looked at your bank account, what kind of person would I think you are? right? So it's that kind of thing. Do what you say what you do. Certainly, we've been talking a lot about leadership, influencing people, connecting with people. Man, the key, the doorway, the only way to that is through trust and integrity and being honest. And listen, we're all imperfect. So I'm not Jesus up here, on the mount talking about this like I got it all figured out. My buddy Mark said it best. He said, man, we were talking about our faith and, how weird it is when people, anyway, he said, we're just men who are trying to do the right thing every day. And I think that's a good definition of me. Like I miss, but man, I wake up every day and I really do have a heart to try to do good. Sometimes things get in the way, desperation. We were talking about that today. Like desperation calls a man of integrity to do funny things. You know what I'm saying? So I hope you hear my heart on this, right? As we move through it. Credibility is only achieved over time. We've talked about this. Wisdom is counterintuitive. We live in a microwave culture, but there's nothing that I've ever received really quickly that I have a fond love for, right? I mean, there's a reason that 92% of all lottery winners go broke in 7 years. There's a reason, because they didn't spend time to earn it and to respect it and to appreciate it. When I think of the things that I love the most, Leandro, and you guys can certainly chime in if there's something that you think you get quick, I'd love to hear it, because I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying for me, when I think of the things that mean the most to me, I think of my relationships. And it takes time to create really meaningful relationships with people. It just takes time. I'm lucky enough. I mean, Todd, you guys know him. He actually drove me to high school. My buddy Tanner, I played golf with yesterday. Our parents were friends. I met him when I was 2 years old. My buddy Bill and I've known each other 20 years. So I find myself really coveting those long, those fruitful relationships. And that takes time. Trust takes time. I didn't know how much I appreciated trust till I lost it. You lose trust from someone you love. And then, this was a new thing. I didn't even put this on my notes. This was the thing when I've told you guys, I've had some struggles in my life. In about 20 years, man, it got pretty dark. And I had to, they say when you hit rock bottom, that's a good place to plant your feet and go back up. And certainly I was there. And I remember I knew spiritually I was there, right? I'd already turned back around. Time was passing with me engaged in right activities. And I became confident in my own discipline for the first time in a long time. And then at that point, because I knew that I was doing things the way I was supposed to be doing them, which is radically different than the way I was doing them before, time for the first time in my life became my friend. Like I wanted it to pass, because I knew that Stacy had to have however much time she had seeing that constant activity before she could begin to trust me again. So you don't realize how much you appreciate trust until you've lost it. It's like that old song by Poison, right? Don't know what you got till it's gone. I'll never do that again. Never let me do that again. Love, right? Love takes time. Infatuation. I know a buddy of mine be like, hey, I fell in love 3 times today. That's not the kind of love I'm talking about. I'm talking about real love. I'm not even talking about, there's 3 kinds of love, right? There's the Abba love, which is the fatherly love. It's without, you need to do nothing to get it. There's the Phila love, which is brotherly love, hence the city of Philadelphia, right? The city of brotherly love. And then there's Amor. Amor is that romantic love like you have for your spouse. So I'm talking about all 3. I'm not just talking about, right? Love is something that I love to love people, and I love being loved. Mastering a skill. How cool is it when you can do something, right? Leandro is amazingly gifted at visual, both moving and still. And man, how doesn't that make you feel like, don't you appreciate that? Oh, yeah. Took a lot of time to master that skill though, right? They say it takes 10,000 hours of practice to master any skill. Wealth. I enjoy wealth. I don't care about money as much as I do. I like wealth. I like that the kids, accounts are being filled. I like that, there's stuff, for my retirement and things like that. It's just, but that stuff takes time. I'm not talking about being rich, because I've been rich and I've been broke and I've been rich and I've been broke. I'm talking about wealth, right? So anyway, security, put it that way. Let's call it security. Wealth's probably not even a great word. Security is a better word. I learned this actually from John Maxwell, and I'm surprised it's not in this book, but he said at a conference that the longest distance between us and our goals or dreams is a shortcut. There is no shortcut. And I think that message needs to get to people in a culture where, again, we're in a microwave society. We want everything and we want it now, and we don't even know why. I mean, I guess it's just it's a human condition that we want to appease. But then again, if we take real inventory of those things that we get quickly, and like I said, the things that take time to achieve, which do you find more value in? So it's counterintuitive to think, well, I want things fast. If you can put an inventory that says, well, clearly these things are more meaningful to me. Excuse me, COVID. I can make fun of COVID. My dad actually has it and was in ICU, and he's okay now. But man, this guy is 77, pneumonia, COPD, stage 4 cancer, and went into ICU and actually came out. So I hope that if anybody knows anybody that has it, I hope that's encouraging to you, because if anybody should have been taken down immediately, it's my old man. Right. So I can actually joke about it because I'm dealing with it. It's my way of coping. Or I cry. It just all right. Trust. I wrote this down from the book. Trust rids fear, and it opens the line for real communication. And it offers us an opportunity to be authentic, open, and vulnerable. And I think we all know that's where the real magic happens. I mean, you talk about compressing time in building fruitful relationships, being open, honest, and vulnerable, right? If you got both parties there, man, it's like you surge, like there's so much ground covered in connection when we get there. And I do want to tell you a story where I got it wrong when I was in the financial service business. I think I told you guys that it really more became about the leaderboard, competing with other high level producers, and it became about money. And I entered a season where I was getting a lot of chargebacks and cancellations, meaning when I was there, I was a top writer. I was there, I was charming, I was knowledgeable, I had it down. I was more into my pitch than I was the people that I was pitching. And it showed itself. And what chargeback is, like, you get all your commission, and then a month later, they don't want to make their payment. You got to give it all back, or it goes against your future income. So it really hurts, and it caused me to really try to get an understanding of why that was happening to me. And that's what it was. I didn't care. I spoke about caring, right? Let's put this in place so that your wife, your spouse, your kids, they have a financial future. I spoke, don't you care enough was kind of the message, but I didn't care. And it came across. So I was the honeymoon. When I was in the office or their home or wherever we met, when we were kneecap to kneecap, eyeball to eyeball, man, they were ready to go. But because I didn't care, my thought and my picture of when I left was like, well, wait a minute. What just happened? Right? Because I'm in and out. I got 8 appointments that day. It was more about the job. It was more about anything else other than people. And I just wanted to share that was a real revelational moment for me. And listen, once I understood that that's what it wasn't that easy to fix, right? It wasn't like, oh, I got to care about people. Okay. I mean, I had to do reading. I had to, I've always been, a spiritual guy. So I certainly went through that curricula and began to learn how to care about people again, and became a much better trainer and a much better producer too, once that happened. So I do have real world experiences of both failing miserably at it and also getting it right.
Best teachers.
Yeah, and it's never too late. Yeah, failure is a better teacher of success. John talks about cheaters, steroids in baseball. And I put it in here just because it kind of hit me, and I thought about Lance Armstrong, and even the Astros last year, right? Their whole cheating scandal. And it's hard because think about that. Think about those great ball players like Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, and I can rattle them off. Their legacy is destroyed. No, I mean, unless they're going to talk to kids about the fallacy of doing steroids, who are they going to influence? Certainly no baseball person. Baseball people are purists. They're all pissed off because baseball is a game of statistics, and they screwed it up for 5 years. And so now it's messed up the game of baseball. I have a real world experience where the pastor that preached at the church where I got saved again. So I was a little kid. I was always in church. Both my grandparents were pastors. But when I was like 17, I had my own experience and my own, testament to faith. And the pastor under which I was kind of re-saved or reworked my life for Jesus, he spoke about, what was appropriate in a marital bed. And, you know, he was a pastor. Turns out he got caught having an affair with one of the parishioners who was the wife of a parishioner. Right. So, you know, he's preaching today at a church in Tampa. So I don't know why I felt inclined to bring it up. I think I'm inclined to bring it up to open up the floor that we're not only talking about, you know, looking at how we respond to people who fail us or who let us down. We have to know that we're going to do that. I told both my kids, I said, I'm not perfect. Everyone in life's going to let you down. There's only one that won't, right? That's the lesson. Amen. I'm going to let you down. I'm not going to ever, I could cry thinking about it. I'm not going to ever want to, but I'm going to miss. I'm going to make mistakes. And so I want everybody to know that, because we're getting into the next topic, which is connecting with ourselves. And I want you guys to know, it is so difficult to try to teach teenagers how to see themselves in a positive light. Certainly the teenagers of today, I mean, they got dealt a bad hand in this category, because anonymity can throw things at them, at kids that are going through developmental stages and already feel awkward. I mean, there's that middle school time is so awkward for most people, and kids are awful. You know, they can be so nasty. But do you know that this topic of connecting with ourselves, which really bleeds into being comfortable with who we are, comfortable in our own skin, liking ourselves, appreciating ourselves, and not being self-loathing and not having a low self-worth, but understanding our real value in life. Although it's harder because there's so much more complex and diverse issues that teenagers deal with, but it's no less prevalent in the adults that I've taught. No less. I can steer most every problem and reverse engineer it back down to a self-worth issue. Could be too high, could be too low, right? I don't think it can be too high. I think having a self-worth is great, but then how that is exposed to people can be challenging, right? I was watching a show the other day, and I'll leave out the curse word, but the guy's a coach of a soccer team, and he asked one of his top players, his name's Jamie. It's Ted Lasso, if you guys ever seen it. His name's Jamie Tart. And there's a conversation going around, and if you had to choose, would you be a panda or a tiger? One person picks a tiger, Ted picks a panda, and up walks Jamie, and he goes, "Hey, Jamie, if you had to choose, which would you be, a panda or a tiger?" And he goes, "I'm Jamie Tart. Why would I want to be anything other than myself?" And Ted Lasso goes, "I don't know if you know how psychologically healthy what you just said is." So it is psychologically healthy, right? I mean, it's the way you deliver it, because certainly we talked about, arrogance and so forth, how that pushes people and disrupts connection. But I want to know how we can have an open relationship and really get to know and care for people if we don't know or like or are uncomfortable with ourselves. And it's very, very common. When I say these things, I understand that I feel like almost every ear that hears me is going to go, yeah, I get it. If you don't feel comfortable with who you are and you're uncomfortable, you ever been around anybody who's really uncomfortable? If you've ever been around anybody who's really been uncomfortable, it's hard to get comfortable. So we have to look and find a way to connect with ourselves. I never understood why a speaker would tell an audience, "Man, I'm really nervous and uncomfortable." It's like automatically now I am. At least try to fake it. I can co-sign with that. But like you gave up, man. I'm just so here's some tips that are not in the book, but just as I'm thinking, this is kind of my wheelhouse, man. And we've talked about not being rigidly positive, right? They're acknowledging our emotions, but seeing the good in it, understanding that adversity is going to happen, and then having a positive outlook on how you're going to accomplish it and where, what that's going to teach us. I had a good friend of mine text me yesterday. He's having some real problems. And I said, the question isn't why. The question is what? What would you have me learn through this? What is your purpose in this? How can I grow? How can I become better in dealing with this adversity or dealing with these uncomfortable situations? It all starts with having a confidence in who we are. And, AA, they call it a higher power. You got Buddhism, Hinduism, Muslim, Christianity, Judaism. There's so many things out there, or that just, hey, there's something bigger. But I would find it hard if we don't have a solid self-worth. It's like, where do you look? So here's some tips. Please, please, please be around people who acknowledge how awesome you are. Don't be around people who point out your negatives. We point out all our own negatives in our head, right? I mean, honestly, Stacy made a mistake recently and she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I go, it's not a big deal. I mean, it's not a big deal, right? It's not that big a deal. I know that she's her own worst critic. I know that I'm my own worst critic. There's nothing I'm going to say to her that's going to make her change any more than what she's dealing with in herself, because I know how Stacy is. So be around people. Don't be around people that point out your negative. In fact, I'll teach you here, acknowledge your negatives. Part of knowing yourself is knowing your weaknesses, but more importantly, knowing your strengths. I think acknowledging our weaknesses and having them up there and even articulating them. Remember, I told you that it's in this book where John was approached by a CEO after telling him, you should disclose your weaknesses, be humble. And the guy's like, hey, you can't let your people see you sweat. You got to have da. And he's like, I think you're suffering under a misconception. And he said, what's that? And he goes, you think they don't already know. All you're doing is telling them that you know. So be aware of your strengths. Don't shy away from your weaknesses. Don't be shamed of your weakness. That weakness and acknowledging it and dealing with it might be the very path to the very best us, right? Read a lot. Read. If you have a problem and you look in the mirror and you don't like, and I've been there, I didn't like what I saw. I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. Part and parcel of the journey out of that was reading, because when you read, you have a better understanding of things. You have a more active intellect going on, and you feel better about yourself. When you start learning things and getting introspect and perspective on things, it makes you think about things other than yourself. And over time, you begin to feel better about yourself. No negative self-talk. You better not be around me and tell me and speak like, oh, I just can't do this. My kids cannot say the word can't. The only thing they can't do is say the word can't. Right? They're not allowed to do it, because it's so powerful when you say something out loud. And, in here, there's a quote. I think it was Zig Ziglar. It's like the person you are influencing the most every day is yourself. You might want to be sharing some positive thoughts. Think about the Bible says, capture every thought. It doesn't have to be biblical. Do not say negative crap about yourself in your head. I have to stop myself a lot. I mean, I make mistakes all the time, and I have to stop myself. Now, one thing I've gotten really good at is not speaking it. I mean, the only thing I can really say is I'm not a good singer, because I don't think that's going to, there's no downside. There's no teeth in that.
I doubt it.
I already can't sing.
I doubt it.
All right, maybe. Achieve, win through discipline and hard work. I always set two goals, set achievable goals, and then set stretch goals, ones that are going to make you work a little bit. And when you achieve the achievable ones, see that as a win, acknowledge the little victories. And then, because you'd be amazed at the power it has on how we see ourselves. Associate with positive things. Honestly, if you're having challenge being positive in life, stay off the political board, stay out of the news. It's not going to hurt you. Leandro, everybody in the office tell you, I'm very aware of what's going on, but I read headlines. If I see a headline, motorcyclist gets hit, why do I want to read about that? I know it happens. It saddens me. I'm not obtuse. It doesn't behoove me to do that. For some reason, I couldn't watch MMA for a long time, Leandro. Hurt my feelings. I watch all the time now. I don't know what the hell happened. But for a season, my spirit didn't want me to associate with it. Really dark movies, stuff like that. I kind of don't really want to associate. Not like, I don't mind like The Boys or, some, gory stuff. I don't like the satanistic, evil. Oh, I get all whacked out, man. Self-develop constantly. And lastly, and most importantly, forgive people. that's for you and me. It's not for the people we forgive. Carrying around that burden and carrying around that baggage, I just, it does something to people, and it robs us of joy. And so I think to find joy in life, which is different than happiness, happiness is an emotion, joy is a state of mind. To find joy in life, you can't be carrying around that stuff. And I am very sensitive to that right now because I was carrying around some stuff, and my brother gave me a book called Love Like You've Never Been Hurt. And the book wasn't all that great. I got to be honest with you, but something happened in that book, and I came out of the back side of it, and I was just like, it doesn't make any sense for me to hold these grudges. And it was like, I didn't explain it away. I just realized it wasn't there anymore. And something happened through that book. So, and it wasn't like I was gripped to it, or there was some amazing moment, or, some word some sentence I'll repeat 300 times in my life. It was just, there's something happened. All right. Any errors, omissions, cares, concerns?
Yes.
Talk to me.
Victor is sharing. Wealth, my wife is the universe. My dog is my goal. My grandkids are my diamonds. My daughters are my platinum. Wealth.
Amen. Hey, well said, Victor.
Yep.
I am glad you said that, because as I'm talking about it, I literally was thinking, I hope people understand it's not just about money. Mm-hmm. That's why I was like, I got caught in the money path. Thank you, Victor.
And I know
iron sharpens iron.
Hey, amen.
Amen.
Another thing that she's sharing, one thing that jumped out of this week is the effectiveness of communication relies more on the character of the messenger than the content of the message.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
Yep. Can you guys hear that? Can you hear Leandro?
Barely.
Okay. He's reading it. Are you reading it from the chat though? Yes. Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, so maybe amp it up a little bit. Okay. Maybe we can turn this like this way, and it'll get you a little bit more. Oh, we got Leandro closer to the table now. Way to go, you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks. See, it's never a setback. It's always a setup, Leandro.
Bob,
yeah, go ahead, Patrice.
Yes.
I just wanted you to repeat. You said that joy is a state of mind and happiness is what?
An emotion.
Emotion.
Yeah, I mean, my dad's was in ICU, and Stacy and I had our where it hit us and our emotional moment, and she looked up and she goes, "Man, this is hard." And I've said that before. You just go through. I mean, everybody here knows, man. We go through some hard things, and in those moments, I'm not going to lie and say I'm happy, but I'm very joyful, and the joy is in knowing where Dad's going. You know what I mean? So, and he has been suffering, and therein lies the positive light in it is that he's a man of faith, and both of his parents are gone, have passed, and he was very, very close with them, and he's got a body that just doesn't work. And how nice would it be, the thought of my dad not suffering anymore is my joy in a sad time. So that's, I always make a difference. I've heard people kind of differentiate it in different ways, but joy truly is when people ask me, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "I'm living the dream." And they go, "Oh, you're having a nightmare." And it's like, like, you must be having a nightmare, man. And it's not all, it has very little to do with my circumstances, and it has more to do with my perspective. Because there was a story once where we were in an Omni hotel, and I was doing a lot of speaking at the time, and a lady came up who worked in a group right next to mine. She wasn't in my group, but our groups work together a lot. And she came up to me and it gave me a really great compliment. And she goes, "I've noticed that you're always kind of the same guy. You're always in a good mood. You're always upbeat, positive." And I was like, "Oh, thank you. This is a true story. So I'm not trying to recruit here." But she goes, so what's your secret?" And I go, "Jesus." And she's a believer. She's a believer. And she goes, No, really. And I go, "Really? I'm not even kidding you." I said, "I don't really worry about things." She goes, "How do you do that?" And I said, "Let me ask you this." And this place was huge. And I said, "If you told me that if I walked out those double doors and I ran around this facility 5 times as fast as I could, it would solve any one of the problems that I have right now, I'd be the first guy out there. You tell me how worrying does any better than running around this property. When I worry about something, it doesn't help me. I have noticed that, it's that old thing, you engage in an activity. If it produces a result you don't like, quit engaging in it. To say I don't worry about something does not mean that I'm not mindful of it. Heck, we've had some times around here. I mean, COVID, lockdowns. I mean, we're running a big business here, and we've had some some lean moments, and we're out of it pretty much. But I do remember thinking, it's like, I can't, we come here, we work hard every day, we do the best we can. That's all we can do. I didn't worry about it. I planned. I had, like, my buddy owns a Chick-fil-A, and his business consultant said, what's your worst fear? And he said, them putting an overpass, like they did on, they're doing on Gandy and some of these other places where they basically route traffic over your business. They can't get off to it. And he said, you have a plan for it? And he said, yeah, a 40% loss of his business. And what would his business plan be? So I did that, right? It doesn't mean I'm not mindful of it. I'm not, hey, I don't worry about it. Forget about it. I don't mean don't, deal with it, but I just wasn't ever scared. And building this business, I wasn't scared. Y'all, the first month we did business, we had $447 in sales, 360 of it we bought to give away. That I was already out of my job. I mean, it was like, I can't even believe I wasn't scared. But as I look back, I didn't even think it was just like this, joyful little kid walking through, puppy's breath and ice cream, all going to work out. Thank God it did. All right, what else we got? Anything else from anybody?
Everyone is wishing you a happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Too bad we're virtual. If we were live, you can give me your presents in person.
She has something to say.
Yes, ma'am, Patrice.
I just wanted to share, this helped me so much, and it's amazing. I have a Bible study group, and we're talking about self-love. And for a long time, after all my accomplishments, I never felt it was good enough. I mean, I'd be the top this, the top that, and it's never good enough. And it all stemmed from a lack of feeling my own value and my own worth. And what has helped me, and it took many, many years to get to this point, and it's amazing, it just began to gel this week, is that I am a follower of Jesus Christ, and I love him with all my heart. And what happened, I loved the Lord, but I had not received his unconditional love for me. I knew it in my mind, but not in my heart. And it dawned on me, in order to deal with my self-worth, I need to love myself unconditional, just like the Lord loves me unconditional. Right. And those things together with my class and this, it was an aha moment. So I want to say thank you.
Oh, I love aha moments. Boy, you're welcome. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Thank you. We all need our glass refilled, don't we, Leandro? And that certainly does it, man. Patrice, you've been a joy through this whole thing. It's nice to kind of get to know you through this. Patrice and I have had some discussions on the DL. Okay. It says read page 233. This is the one. The most influential person who will talk to you all day is you. You should be very careful what you say to you. If you are constantly saying critical and negative things about yourself internally, you won't be confident with yourself or with others. You have to be positive. This doesn't mean denying wrongdoing or glossing over problems or mistakes, like we just talked about, right? You got to deal with it. Mm-hmm. It means maintaining a realistic but positive outlook on life. I thought that was so well put. I mean, just so effective. Hey, I have hearing aids in that actually pick up my phone ringer, which is ringing right now. It rang throughout the whole reading of this, so I'm feeling pretty accomplished right now. They say celebrate the small victories, right? That was a victory for me. Because you know me, squirrel. Two things were happening at once, and I think I made it. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to go through, and this is some things that I think can help with our integrity. They're very basic stuff. I mean, there's, this thing says right the wrongs. Right the wrongs. Story I thought of is when we are, not our previous house, but the one before, we sold during the downturn. And we got a short sale, like from the bank, right? We were able to sell it for less than we bought it for, which is what was happening a lot at that time. And we went to the closing table, and we had some very good friends who are realtors. We went to the closing table, and of course, they, everybody tried to pull a fast one. And next thing you know, I owed $2,100 at closing. Wasn't on the good faith estimate, just wasn't anywhere. Oh my gosh. I see.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I can do it. So anyway, they were doing pretty good at the time. We were not. And I was ready to blow the whole thing up. To me, it's just my personality. It's like, I don't care. Let's just do it. But you got the title worker there that needs to get paid. You got the realtors want to get paid. You got everybody want to get paid. So I'm the only one who doesn't want to do it. And Bruce, my realtor, good buddy of mine, said, we'll loan it to you. And he basically wrote a check for $2,100 at closing.
Wow.
It took us, I think it was 3 years. We were able to walk up to them in church one day and give them a check for that. And they sent a letter a year and a half before saying what a blessing it was and that they were doing so well and they wanted to wipe that debt clean. Yeah. Now, listen, this isn't a go us issue, but the only reason I say it is because his wife, who's a very good friend of ours too, started crying as soon as we handed it to her. And if I would have felt like it was okay, like they released us from it, but it was affecting me. And I can't tell you how much better. I mean, there's other stories that I have where I got it right, the one out of 32 times, but I can't tell you how much better it felt, right? It just felt great. It just felt great. So, right the wrongs, take ownership. We've talked about that. Don't give away your power. The more we own in situations, the more we can grow, right? You see people who are always a victim. They never own anything. They'll never grow. They'll always be that same person on a hamster wheel, never growing because they never take ownership or responsibility for their part in things. There's a quote in here that I think it was from Thomas Jefferson, says, if you have to eat crow, eat it while it's young and tender. Makes sense to me, right? Kind of like eat that frog, get the hardest thing done first. Live your message is the next one. I put a note to read 236 to myself. Because very few people listen to me, I'm going to listen to myself. So there's at least one. Somebody told me, why don't you give your opinion? I was like, nobody cares.
Come on now.
It's true. All right. Author and speaker Jim Rohn observed, you cannot speak that which you do not know. You cannot share that which you do not feel. You cannot translate that which you do not have. And you cannot give that which you do not possess. Much to Patrice's point. If you don't have love for yourself, how are you going to give love? Meaningful love, right? To give it and you cannot have what you do not possess. To give it and share it, and for it to be effective, you must first have it. That means you first need to live it. If you're unwilling to try something, you probably shouldn't try to communicate it. Right? I mean, I can communicate forgiveness. I would not have been able to authentically, effectively communicate forgiveness 6 months ago before reading the book, right? If you're talking about working hard, you better be a hard worker. If you're talking about appropriateness and marital beds, you better be a loyal husband, right? Because you lose your effectiveness as an influencer, as a persuasive being, as a person of integrity. And listen, when someone sees us as a person of integrity, the person that they can trust, we're going to get opportunities to speak into their life, right? I mean, that's the most, what else are we here for? Other than, I told a whole church full of people, I said, if God gave you a blessing and you're not giving that blessing to others, I pray that take that blessing from you and give it to someone who is willing to share it with others. Because it's not for us, it's to flow through us. It's like a shallow bowl, right? The water comes in here and flows right out the other side.
Wow.
How much are you going to be able to put in this hand? A lot more if I do that, right? So if you're talking about it, do it. Be authentic so that we have an opportunity to influence people for the good. The problem is we've always got people watching us. Remember the two-bagger? He didn't know the gringo was passing by on the Pan American Highway. He had no idea, but I was watching him and people watch us. So the misconception is, I don't need to develop because I don't really influence anybody. I'm not looking to go out and change anybody's life. You're influencing people every day. You just don't know it. So if you're not engaged and intentional on being a positive influence, the default is negative, right? If a dude was carrying around a 2-pound bag, you got everybody carrying a 50, and you got one guy carrying two 50-pound bags. Who am I going to be influenced by? Definitely not the dude carrying around a 5-pound bag. Like, I don't want nothing to do with what he's got going on. I might catch it. Right? I'm gonna be around that guy. I'm gonna be carrying a 5-pound bag myself. That's what you say, right? If you don't want to drink in bowls, don't hang around drinkers and bowlers, because this is gonna happen. I said that one day, and one guy goes, "Well, what if you could be the voice of change?" And I go, "God calls you to it, so be it." I just, I go to the pool hall. I don't want a bowl. What if I could change everybody? He talks about this in here. he's not a good hire. I typically am not either. And it's for the exact same reason. I have such an optimism about people. And it got to the point where in our business, in the previous business, I had to say, and it's like, you need to remember that you're not Jesus. I would think like, oh, he's never been successful anywhere in his life, but he hadn't worked for me yet. Like, that's the Jesus thing. Like, you can't save anybody. You can only help them, right? Jesus saves, we help. So if the car's not moving, it's pretty hard to steer, right? So I really, I don't know if you guys read this, but this was the part where he shared that with the executives that he was training, because I haven't done hiring in years. And they're like, why not? He goes, I'm terrible at it. So it was the message of sharing your weaknesses. It's okay, right? And that was in the message of trust, because they trusted him because he exposed a weakness to them. It says in here that perfection's a mask. Remember, I talked about your representative? I wonder if I got that from here. I've been training that for years. I want to fire your representative. Like, I see a guy in front of you, you're standing behind him, and then he references a mask. Perfection's a mask is what it says in here. I think I wrote it down. Any comments, additions?
No.
Okay. No. We're moving right along. Man, I'm running late, Leandro. Dang it.
You're right on time.
All right. Strive to be what you call others to be. And the first thing I thought was my children, right? Do you remember that old commercial? It's so bad that I'm laughing at this. You remember the old commercial? The dad's leaning in the bathroom and he's like holding this box of paraphernalia, and he goes, I need you to tell me who taught you how to do this? Where the hell did you learn how to do this? And the kid goes, from you, Dad. I learned it from you. I don't know why I'm laughing about it. I mean, but it's true, right? And I've asked James to do things at times. I was like, man, maybe I should do it if I want to ask him to do it, right? Clean up dishes a little bit more often. Like, oh, I better do it. It's that old, do as I say, not as I do, right? So, but it's not just about children. It's friends, employees, spouses, relatives. I mean, the easy thing is like, if you expect people to be on time, be on time. That's just a simple analogy. I remember, this is a true story. My mother smoked Salem Lights until she had a heart attack, and that's what finally made her quit. When I was a kid, I totally remember where we were and everything. She's literally smoking a cigarette, telling me not to smoke. As she's smoking a cigarette, she's talking to me about how bad smoking is and how much trouble I get in if I smoke. And I go, come on. Wow. Come on, Mom. I remember once I was in a class that you had to take with part of the legal problems that I had 20 years ago. And this one was weekly. So about the third one, you kind of get to know everybody, because you're sitting, there's only like 7 or 8 of you, and you're all in there because you're a bunch of screw ups and did something wrong, right? And there's a lady teaching, it's a drug class, like an addiction class, just once a week. It was like 45 minutes. It was literally like punch the box. You didn't learn anything from these things. And one of the guys next to me, he asked the lady, he said, have you ever had any drug problems? And he goes, I've never done drugs. And he looks at me, he goes, and it was so funny. He was like a Southern dude. He goes, how the hell am I supposed to listen to a person who's never done drugs before? And I thought, I don't know. I wasn't listening anyway, so it didn't really matter. But that's the truth, right? I mean, it's almost like people trying to sell our products and never used them. I mean, it's just not authentic. It's not going to work. You might have a honeymoon period, but if that's how you're doing it, it's gonna dissipate. And that's kind of the whole chapter here. Credibility is not perfection, but the willingness to admit imperfection. I like that. Credibility is not perfection, but the willingness to admit imperfection. That's credibility. If everybody's a know-it-all, do you really trust them? Like, you don't know everything. You know what I mean? That was I like picture somebody and got kind of like, you don't know what you're talking about. All right, be vulnerable. We all know that perfection is a mask. That's where I put it in there, Leandro. I knew it was in here. We must be honest to be vulnerable. It's like light and dark. It seems so obvious, but it feels good to say it. Our lives improve when we take chances. The most difficult risk we can take is to be honest with ourselves.
That's sometimes the hardest.
Our lives improve when we take chances. The most difficult risk is to be honest with ourselves. You know that I did learn, not through any kind of government thing, but I did learn through my process of figuring things out that you can absolutely, or at least I don't know if you can. I can and did absolutely lie to myself and believed a lie. And I got to be honest. I mean, it, like when I realized that changed, I mean, it shook me to my core. It really changed me. So that, I think that's probably why I pulled that thing out and why it meant so much to me. It is risky being honest with yourself. Mm-hmm. It's risky. All right, last thing I got is to read the last page, which I typically don't do. I like reading like sentences or something, but this is like a full paragraph. Hopefully my phone doesn't ring. Oh, did you see in the back all of the contributors?
Yes.
Do you know why? All these people are faces of people that while he was writing the book, he was opening, he would release certain portions of the script and he'd get people to, so he'd connect with them. So the book would connect with more people because, so the contributors thing is like 40 pages long. It's not 40, that was an exaggeration, but it's a lot. Look, I mean, it's just name after name after name after name after name for pages. Okay. Let's see if I can get my reading posture on. The true power of connecting with others does not come through superficial interactions with others, smiling at a stranger, being friendly with a food server, or wowing a one-time audience. It comes from connecting with people long-term. In ongoing relationships, we're able to make an impact of real value. When we live with consistent integrity with our spouse, children, and grandchildren, when we treat our customers, clients, and colleagues the way they wish to be treated, when our neighbors see our values and actions lining up, when we lead others with honesty and respect, these are the things that give us credibility, allow us to connect, and afford us an opportunity to help others and add value to them. A training consultant, Greg Schaefer, remarked, if you do not connect with others, influence is out of the question. Dude, we could have saved 10 weeks and just read that. If you do not connect with others, influence is out of the question. Henry Adams said, a teacher affects eternity. He can never tell where his influence stops. I believe the same that can be said about a connector who has integrity. We can make a difference in our world, but to do so, we must begin with ourselves. By making sure our words and our actions are consistent every day, we must live what we communicate. If we do that, there's no telling what we will be able to accomplish. Man, I like that. I mean, I've seldom read something that long on a stage or teaching, but man, I think it really sums it up. And that, my friend, hold on, let me see if I got another note here, Leandro. But I think that might conclude, it does, this book. Now would be the time for any errors, omissions, cares, concerns, additions.
Victor says, thanks about two storms, need to finish the fence. But he's wishing you a happy birthday.
Thank you, buddy.
Dana, Val, and Beatrice as well.
Thank you. I am turning 49 on Saturday. As I said last week, I'm pretty excited. I'm getting pretty close to being eligible for some discounts, Leandro.
Val, she shared here. I'm sorry, Val, for not reading this. One of the things that jumped out to me this week is the effectiveness of the communication relies more on the character of the messenger than the content of the message.
Yep.
That's right.
Character of the messenger is more important. They don't care how much you know till they know how much you care, right? Mm-hmm. It's all, I mean, it all just circles. It's like a big interactive interweave, man. It all comes back on each other. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, so I knew this was the last chapter, Leandro, but it didn't dawn on me to pick another book. Do we want to do another book?
Of course.
Maybe I'd be creative, think about something. The book, it came to mind when we had a little birthday lunch for me, here at the office. And the book that came to mind was How to Win Friends and Influence People. How to Win Friends and Influence People. fantastic book, but then again, it goes back to connection again. And I'm wondering if we should maybe do another topic. You know, what we could do is like I could put up like a surveyor, you know, and do like have 4 books or 5 books that are all kind of something different. Maybe that'll promote engagement, you know, for the next time around. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys have any ideas?
Anyone?
Bueller? Anyone? Anyone?
One thing I would suggest, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Could we talk at some point about this learning we've had the last 10 chapters, how we can apply this to our business? And
Yeah, you want to
maybe
we do that. Yeah, maybe we do that. Maybe we do that next week, kind of a recap. We'll let people on Facebook know that it is a recap, and you know, if they want to get some out of it, I'll absolutely. You just want the last 2 chapters, and you want me to do business applications?
Pardon?
You want me to do summarize some business applications from the whole book, or just the last 2 chapters?
No, just generally from the book, and then have participants share how they're applying it, like success for reps or reps who are just beginning. How are they taking what we've learned and applying it in our business with CBD BioCare?
Well, that'd be great. Let's put the hook out with the worm on it and see, you know, if we can get some responses. It's something that you can share, Val. I mean, kind of what you did, you know, even though it's not CBD BioCare business, I almost like, how did it help you?
Okay.
And yes, I will throw in business application, but as far as like wanting people to communicate, because it has been a holistic thing, I've said that so many times, right? It's not just about business. Then maybe we can get some of these organic things, kind of like your story that doesn't deal with CBD BioCare, but I'll bring the business application in case no one, you know, says, hey, here's how I've been able to use it in my business. I mean, I can think of 10 things right off the top of my head, so that'll be easy for me, Patrice. So that's what we'll do next week. Okay, we'll just do kind of a recap. What'd you get out of it? You know, business application concepts, something like that. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Patrice. That's a great idea. Val, what you got?
I really liked the idea of the doing the survey for the next book also.
Okay, so make a note. We'll do that too. As long as I don't get, it's marketing, so I might get overridden by Stacy, right? So, but I will plead the case for us. How's that?
Okay, thanks.
You got to run everything by the boss, don't we?
Yes.
All right. If there's nothing else, thank you so much, everybody. This has been really cool. It's been a while since I did a book with a group of people. I very much enjoyed it. It's definitely made a difference in my life. I'll certainly come back with a story. You know me, I can tell a story, right? I'll come back with a story or two I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, honestly, for me, and I will come up with some poignant stories, but for me, it changes when I'm intentional in something like this. It changes the way I view everything. It's not like, for me, it's not like, oh, well, I thought of this concept and I tried it and implemented it here and it worked. I mean, that would be a cool, compelling story. I don't have anything like that, but what I do have are some things that have happened in my life, and this book has caused me to look at it differently. I'll give you a story. Have you ever heard of Cesar Millan, right? The dog whisperer.
Yes.
You know, a very charming guy. I've only ever seen one show, and it was only one like dog. Like, I guess the format is he works with a couple of different dogs in one show. And I saw the segment on this one dog, and it was a lab shepherd mix, big dog, right? And it was a very young couple, and they lived in a condo or apartment or something like that. And when they left, this dog tore up the house. I don't mean like grabbed a pillow. I'm talking about like chewed the doorknobs down to nubs, ripped window sills out, tore blinds down, ripped up just went destroying the place. And I'm an old Southern boy, so I'm thinking, I'd kill that dog. You ain't gonna tear my house up like that. Nah, kill that dog. And the camera pans to the owner, the female owner, and she's crying. And Caesar said, "Why are you crying?" And she said, "I can only imagine, after seeing all of the chaos and destruction that he is causing, I can only imagine the chaos that's going on in his head and the anxiety and what she was so sympathetic to the reason for the destruction. And I wonder if we could look at an alcoholic like that, or a gambler who's gambled away all their money. We're so ready to be angry at the destruction, and the better response is to care for why it's happening. That I was reading at that time about dealing with real situations and people. And I believe God providentially showed me that. And that's an example of how there's one story in front of you. This dog's tearing up the house. There's two different responses. The intuitive one, which is, I don't like that dog. And the other one is to care for that. And I was able to use that story with my mother-in-law. I'll spare you the details, but she's like, oh, can't you believe this and that and this? And it was like, and I said, you know what really is getting me is I'm wondering what's going on in his spirit and in his mind to create that. And had I not seen that show, I wouldn't have had that perspective. And had I not been reading at the time, I wouldn't have found so much value in that, right? I wouldn't have stuck on it, and I would have taught it now for 10 years. I've told that story. So it's just a matter of how we respond to things, and being in a book and being able to train with you guys shapes the prism of my lens in a way that causes me more joy, more peace. It's a better life when I'm developing, and I don't like, who likes to do anything? Well, there's certain things I like to do by myself, but most things I like to do with others. So thank you very much. Anything finally? I don't want to cut anybody off.
Dana, she just bought a book called Jesus CEO, but she hasn't started yet.
I was given a book. Catherine did missions work with a family that, American family that's out there doing missions in Ireland, Northern Ireland. And he came in town, the husband did, he's doing his, going around to the churches that sponsor him. And he gave me a book. And Dana, I'll bring it tomorrow. I just opened it yesterday. He Amazoned it to me, but it had, I know it's not the same book, but it's almost the same thing. It's like CEO and Biblical Principles or something like that. Really? If that's the same book, Dana, whoa, that's the book we'll be reading. We'll do a private one so people don't think we're recruiting. You know what I mean? We're equal opportunity. All right, you guys, thank you so much. We will do this again next week. We'll do a recap. Patrice, I'll do some business application. We'll ask people to come ready to share whatever they got out of it. Hopefully we'll get some business stuff, but if we don't, like I said, I'll fill that gap. And then we'll also, I'll pick 4 books that I kind of want to do a book I haven't read yet, but so what I'll do is I'll just put 4 books up there. Okay. I won't tell you if I've read them or not. How's that? Because I'm probably going to do 3-1. 3 that I've read that I know will be impactful for us, and then 1 because you don't know, right? You read 1, and what if it sucks? Then we're stuck 10 weeks doing. Like, man, we're working through chapter 2 through 13 tomorrow. We're gonna get through this one. All right, you guys, have a great day. Thanks again. Love y'all. Hey, I got a feel of love for all of you. I'm a Philadelphia guy. Yes. Bye, you guys.